Hey everybody. So it's been a little while since I've done a talking head video about a laser in particular, but I'm a little bit overdue on giving any kind of feedback on this guy here. And this is the Hansmaker D1 Ultra. And if you're in the laser world in any way, shape, or form, I'm sure you've seen this thing advertised all over the various socials. So you'll get it on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, I'm sure, and wherever else they've been blasting this thing to laser users. So I have the pleasure of having one of the early adopter machines. This machine is actually one of the first serial numbers off the line, kind of pre Kickstarter launch, pre-release version, and been doing some testing with it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do end-to-end testing, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I wanted to kind of talk about where we stand today, how we got to where we are today, and some of my thoughts about like what comes next for this machine. So first up, it's a 30 watt fiber, 20 watt diode laser. It's relatively affordable on the scale of the competition. I don't have the current pricing in front of me, but it was in the twos, sub 3,000, I believe. Check me on that though. I'll double check and post it on the screen here somewhere before I post this. Anyway, my machine came to me water damaged from a FedEx mishap. So apparently a whole case of these or a whole crate of these got left out in the rain or dunked in the ocean for all I know, but it came soaking wet. I pulled it out, water pouring out everything. So unfortunately, due to no fault of Hansmaker, I had to send the machine back to them for them to do an overhaul on it, make sure everything was as it was supposed to be, and send it back to me. So that caused the initial delay in making it so I couldn't provide any sort of feedback before the official launch in December. So I got the machine, connected it up to the Hansmaker M Plus software, and as of right now, this is the only software that's supported by this machine, and that's a little bit of its Achilles heel, and again, we'll touch base on that in a few minutes. But connected it up, got comfortable with how the machine physically functions, movements of the machine, just making sure from a safety perspective I understood all the ins and outs of what it does and how it physically interacts. Got that out of the way, and then I started doing some basic, testing, some test patterns, some of my original test images, engraving and stuff like that, and unfortunately, that was where I kind of started to hit a little bit of a brick wall and started logging a fairly significant list of concerns and enhancement improvements to send back to Hansmaker. And, to their credit, they've taken that list to heart and they've actually started to make changes to the software. They've started to implement some of the features that I've suggested to make it what I would consider bare minimum usable for a home user. And they started to push some software releases and some firmware releases. And that's where we got to where we are today, which is during the last firmware update, it cleared out my calibration settings. And they provided the means to recalibrate the machine, similar to how you would do the LightBurn 9-point calibration when you put a new lens in, for example. And what it's meant to do is realign the diode laser, the IR laser, and the camera so that they're all, calibrated to work properly and overlaps where they need to overlap and camera lines up and all that stuff. Unfortunately, the calibration software did not work as expected. And the video that they published for makers and testers to follow to do the recalibration, the steps that we executed didn't match the video. And so at that point, I was no longer able to perform any testing with this machine to see if some of the fixes that they implemented have actually benefited or would have addressed some of the concerns that I had raised. So that's where we stand today. Is I'm kind of going back and forth with them to try and get the calibration tool working so that I can accurately calibrate this thing and start my testing again. Up to that point, I did do a fair amount of testing. I mean, I tested, images on slate. Not sure how well you can see that there. some images on slate. We did various testings on stainless steel, obviously wood and black acrylic. I was cutting some of my keychains on black acrylic just for some testing. I did test. I have the conveyor and the rotary. This was done on the conveyor, so you can see that obviously this is much bigger than the 220 millimeter footprint of the laser itself. And I did some rotary or some conveyor testing with big format, and then I did some conveyor testing with batch material, where you just lay a bunch of material on the bed and it auto detects them. While they did work, there's a consideration in the software that won't let you unlock the true potential. It locks you into a line trace before doing a scanning, a vector trace. And the problem with that is the vector trace can't go fast when you're using the conveyor or the rotary, because it causes skips in the stepper motors. So unfortunately, because the two are tied together, you can't do fast engraving then. So to slow the vector trace down slow enough where the motors don't skip, it slows the engraving speed down. So while this should have taken about a 5-minute job on the conveyor, it took almost 2 hours. The rotary was the same thing. I've completely torn up a tumbler here trying to do rotary engraving and kept running into the same problem. It's that vector trace. Software fixable. All the problems that I'm conveying are software related. They are not hardware related. I do believe that physically this machine is very capable. I do believe from a hardware perspective it's very solid. There's some usability features. The sideways opening doors means it's almost impossible to reach around to get to your e-stop or any of your controls back there when the doors are open, and the doors are forced to be open when you have the rotary or the conveyor in. So at that point it becomes almost a safety issue that you can't reach your e-stop or any of your controls with the doors open. And it also makes it hard to run cables. So I would much rather have seen a raise up and down style of door, kind of like X-Tool does. But the core machine itself is it's actually really nice. It's really well fit and finish. It works well for when you give it the right jobs through the software. So I'm kind of talking out both sides of my mouth here, because I really like the hardware of the machine, but the software is less than Atom Stack's Studio, less than Creality's Falcon Pro software, less than WeCreate's Maker software, less than Xtool Studio, absolutely less than LightBurn or even EasyCAD or some of the others. So the software right now is the biggest hurdle, the biggest Achilles heel, the biggest problem we have with this machine. Rumor has it there's conversations going on behind the scenes with LightBurn to potentially open this up to LightBurn compatibility. However, that has not been officially confirmed by either side, and depending on who you ask, you'll get various degrees of no, that's not even an option, to yeah, we're having a conversation. So depends on who you talk to, what story you get. If they can open this up to LightBurn and make this compatible, I think the machine can be a fantastic contender in the market. If they could even get bare minimum functionality out of the M Plus software, I think it would be a contender in the market. Until that point, you have to be willing to live within its limitations. If you're doing straight up vector work, vector engraving, if you just need fast engraving on metal, small metal keychains and leather and wood, small form factor stuff that'll work in a vector world, machine does fine. If you need to do raster engraving, bitmap engraving, photo engraving, that type of thing, you're going to have to heavily process your image outside of the M Plus software using something like ImageR or similar. And even at that, the machine struggles with grayscale performance, controlling the fine control of the laser at mid settings. It's very much, it likes to be on or off. Anything in between gets a little muddy. So photo engraving still has a ways to go. I'm looking for my test card. I don't know where I put it at the moment. Somewhere I've got a test card that shows the grayscale. Maybe I'll put it up as an image here in the video, and you can see just what I'm talking about in visual form. So all that being said, I mean, this is not a full review because I can't fully test the machine. This is not an endorsement for or against buying this machine. As mentioned in one of the forum posts, it's a combination of bad luck, of obviously the FedEx shipping issues, and early adopter problems where, you know, the machine was just 6 months too early in terms of unlocking its firmware and getting good testing feedback before releasing it to the general public. You know, simple things like unlocking the frequency adjustment for the fiber, unlocking the ability to separate vector tracing from scan line speeds, you know, simple things like having to invert your image to get what normally would be a non-inverted image in other software to engrave properly. I mean, you know, a good example would be like the Santa Claus coaster. I had to flip that opposite of what you see on screen, where it actually engraves the white, not the black. So that's just a small sampling of some of the software problems. Again, I've submitted the list to Hansmaker. They are, to their credit, very receptive of suggestions of not only myself, but some of the other testers, or many of the other testers, as well as some of the early adopters from the Kickstarter campaign, and they're trying. So that's why I say I can't count this machine out, and I don't think you should count this machine out either if you're willing to grow with the company. If you're willing to get in on a machine that's affordable and highly capable and wait for the software to catch up to the physical capabilities, it's a machine to consider, especially at the price point. If you're a tinker, or you like, you know, just messing around with the kind of the latest and greatest, it's a good machine for that. If you're looking for something to start running production work tomorrow, and you need any sort of image style engraving, raster engraving, it may be worth waiting or potentially looking to other lasers. If you're just doing straight up vector, as I mentioned, you know, small scale stuff, there's no reason to wait. It works perfectly well for that right now. If you want to do rotary, wait. If you want to do conveyor, wait. You know, so there you have it. Just my up to this point in time opinion of where this machine stands. And you know, once I get it recalibrated and can really truly unlock the capabilities that for the changes they've made so far, I'll start testing again, and I'll release an updated version of my review and updated you know, capabilities and stuff like that, and I'll just keep a running log. I'll open it up on the Tinkerverse website. I'll open up a running log of my experience testing this thing and start to publicize some of my findings and some of the feedback that I've given to Hansmaker directly. So anyway, a lot of rambling from me. I'm sorry. There's been a lot of cries for updates on the D1, and so this is the best I can offer you right now. And take it for what it's worth, and make your own decisions based on your own personal needs. So, all right, guys. I appreciate it, and look forward to bringing you some updates when there are some for this machine. So we'll catch you in the next video.